Hey everybody, video here for you today. And I've been pretty busy the last week. My son was out here, a few other things going on, but this week I plan on getting some videos done that I've been meaning to get done for a while. But this is number 5 in my ancient history news series. Today we are going to start it out going down to Lake Toba. Here is Lake Toba today. Supervolcano went off about 74,000 years ago and left this caldera that the lake sits in today. Let's just read. This is physics.org. It says human population survived the Toba volcanic supereruption 74,000 years ago. And I know some people have put out the theory that maybe the human population bottlenecked down to about maybe 10 or even 5,000 people, I've heard, and I always wondered about that. Here is a Google Earth view of Lake Toba today. It says, the Toba supereruption was one of the largest volcanic events over the last 2 million years, about 5,000 times larger. The Mount St. Helens eruption in the 1980s. The eruption occurred 74,000 years ago on the island of Sumatra and may have ushered in a volcanic winter lasting 6 to 10 years, leading to a 1,000-year-long cooling of the Earth's surface. This article goes into new studies that have shown that probably the Toba eruption wasn't nearly as bad as some people think it was. They studied some sites where the record goes back like 80,000 years, and they look at what tools were made and how much of effect this had on populations in sites such as India. Here is one of the sites in India that they are studying where the tool record goes back about 80,000 years, the stone tool record. And it says the current study continues the debate, providing evidence that Homo sapiens were present in Asia earlier than expected and that the Toba supereruption wasn't as apocalyptic as once believed. So that's a pretty interesting story. Let's move on. Next story comes from the North Sea area, and before sea levels rose, Doggerland, that is the land that this is called, that now sits at the bottom of the North Sea. Let's just read. This is sciencemag.org, and I will leave all these links below. It says, maps of now submerged land help reconstruct the lives of ancient Europeans. It says, a region beneath the rough waters of the North Sea, known as Doggerland, holds archaeological clues to the past. Watch how researchers are using advances in mapping and leads from dredging sites to piece together the history of this vanished landscape. But on the website, they have a linked video here, and they just show how they're doing their work here. I will leave this link below if you want to check it out, but they do some underwater surveying here, and they kind of go into where the coastlines were 10,000 years before present, 8,000 years, and so on. But pretty interesting article. Let's move on. Next story comes from Mississippi, a museum down here that held artifacts. Let's just read. This is greenwoodcommonwealth.com. Here you see a gentleman here with some skulls. It says, Lost Legacy, Scads of Artifacts, Missing from Museum's Most Prized Collection. Director resigns over the controversy. When Cheryl Thornhill moved to Greenwood a decade ago to become executive director of the Museum of the Mississippi Delta, one of the main lures attracting her was the L.B. Jones collection, a massive, nationally regarded stockpile of mostly prehistoric artifacts entrusted to the museum through carelessness, or I'm not really sure what happened to here, but thousands of artifacts, prehistoric artifacts coming from ancient America, have gone missing from a museum. That story just sucks. Let's just move on. Next story, let's go down to the Czech Republic, and this site is called Promosti. I believe that is how it is pronounced, but I could be wrong. Right down here, a site that goes back 28,000 years, and dog domestication, that's what they were looking into here. Let's just read. This is sciencealert.com, and it says, curious fossil discovery points to dog domestication as early as 28,500 years ago. It says, ancient craniums discovered at a 28,500-year-old fossil site in Czechia may represent one of the earliest stages of animal husbandry, but now they are looking at hairline fractures on the teeth. Dental microwear is a behavioral signal that can appear generations before morphological changes are established in a population. It shows great promise in using the archaeological record to distinguish proto-dogs from wolves. And here is kind of a fossilized dog. Here is the news story, March 2020, Journal of Archaeological Science. And the study they did in the Czech Republic here on these dogs that were almost 30,000 years old. And they think that they were domesticated almost 28,000 years ago based on their study. Let's move on. Next story, this just came out a few hours ago. Let's go down to Egypt, Aswan, Egypt. And of course, this is where granite was quarried a long time ago. And Aswan today is probably most famous for the unfinished obelisk sitting right here, but discovery made on the other side of the Nile. Just take a look at that. It says, Hello Kitty, leopard face reconstructed from ancient Egyptian sarcophagus. Archaeologists discovered the painting in a network of tombs in Aswan. And here is a look at that sarcophagus. Leopard, some sort of feline figure here. Excavation of an ancient city of the dead in Aswan, Egypt. Recently uncovered pieces of a sarcophagus lid that have been decorated with the colorful face of a leopard. Now archaeologists have released the first image showing a digital reconstruction of the artwork fragment found in a necropolis containing 300 tombs dating to the 7th century BC. Here is the find, peeking out from the dirt when they excavated in here. Pretty interesting. This face lined up with the body inside, the face of that body. See the sun disk maybe right there on the forehead. Other things, pretty interesting. Let's move on. Next story, let's go down to East Flanders, Belgium, just a little north and west of Brussels here. Here's a story that came out a little over a week ago. Brussels Times, grave circles found under football pitch. Could be 3,000 years old. But a find here in Belgium, right under a football field or pitch. Here are the fields that I believe this discovery was made at, right under here, stuff that goes back a few thousand years. It says 2 grave circles found under the playing field of the football club KVB Schelde could be more than 2,000 years old. The circles date back to the Bronze Age, when there were already human settlements in the area. The circles, a form of a ceremonial cemetery, contain burned human bones. Archaeologists explain that it was a custom at the time to cremate the dead and then bury the remains with the ashes, no longer an attraction for wild animals. The circles can be dated to the Bronze Age because they conform in many ways to other sites whose age has been established. One of the two is the largest circle of its sort to be found in Flanders, with a diameter of some 55 meters. They may not look spectacular, but they point to an ages-old civilization. They also teach us a lot about burial rituals of the time. In those days, the dead were cremated. We have found urns, ashes, and burned bones. The circles are as old as the pyramids, the archaeologist said. That is up for debate. Nonetheless, the players of KBB will soon be back playing football on top of them. Everything is being measured and kept clear. People will later be able to read about what used to stand here. In the meantime, the schools of nearby Willichland have been invited to take a tour with the archaeologists before the graves return once more beneath the turf. So it seems the kids are getting a pretty hands-on history lesson here. Ancient graves that go back at least a few thousand years, culture that lived in the same place where they live today. But that is my ancient history news. Hope you thought that was interesting, and you all have. Very nice day.